Have you ever felt like you've been trying your whole life and still no one sees it? Ever stayed quiet, made sacrifices, been kind, only to end up the one hurt the most? There are moments when you wake up in the morning and feel like you don't matter. No one needs you, no one sees you, no one really cares how you're doing. And if you were to quietly disappear, the world wouldn't even flinch. That feeling, it's not just loneliness. It makes you question your own worth. Makes you wonder if your existence even matters. If you've ever felt that way, you're not lost. You may have just been living dependent on something that was never meant to have that power, the eyes of the world. This video is for you, for the men who've carried themselves with integrity, but feel out of place in a world quick to judge. Watch it to the end, because you'll realize you don't need to become anyone else. You just need to come home. Live right, live true, stand firm, and you'll see you are already enough. You don't need recognition. You just need to stop betraying yourself. What you're about to hear next could change the way you see your entire life. Hit subscribe, like, and stay with me, because the final minutes will be the most important. No one tells you this when you're young, so I will. No one truly cares how you're living, what you're thinking, or how you're feeling. And I don't say this to hurt you. I say it because it's the truth. It's the wake-up call you need to take full ownership of your life. You used to believe that if you were kind enough, sincere enough, if you tried hard enough, someone would care. Someone would stay. You thought that if you were truly in pain, if you broke down in despair, someone would notice, rush in, and save you. But they didn't. They don't. Because everyone's trapped in their own world. Your pain isn't big enough to interrupt the broadcast of someone else's life. The older you get, the more you see the cold reality. People you thought would always be there turn out to be just passing through. They listen to you talk, they nod, but they can't carry your pain. They can't shoulder the burden of making you feel less alone. And it's not because they're bad people. It's because they're busy wrestling their own fears, failures, and emptiness. They don't have the capacity to care about what you've lost or what you hoped for. Maybe they'll comfort you for a minute, maybe they'll listen a while, but then they go back to their lives, and you're left alone with the mess of your feelings, untouched, and then you feel angry, disappointed, unimportant. But stop, that's the truth you need to see clearly. No one owes you their care. No one owes you thanks, a hug, or a long-lasting presence. And once you understand that, you'll stop demanding it. Stop blaming. Stop torturing yourself, waiting for someone else's validation. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "We love ourselves more than other people, yet we care more about their opinion than our own." It sounds contradictory, but it's painfully true. We abandon our inner voice to chase after external approval. We live as if the whole world is watching, judging, deciding if we're worthy. But the truth is, they're not even looking. The world is full of people who talk big, post fake lives, and pat themselves on the back. But the ones who truly care about you, who are they? How many? Are they still around? And even if they are, can they truly carry that weight for you forever? No. So you need to start living with clarity. Not to be praised, not to prove anything, but to live in a way that you can respect yourself. To live so that when you close your eyes at night, you don't feel like a character, a victim, or someone waiting for others to finally get you. You start taking action with no audience. You move forward with no one holding your hand. You fail without needing comfort. You rise without applause. Because you know, this life is yours, and you're the only one responsible for it. Stoicism calls this inner autonomy. Living by principle, whether the world approves or not. When you finally let go of the fantasy that someone will show up and understand you, you gain the space to become strong. You stop posting your pain just to be pitied. You stop overexerting yourself just to be acknowledged. You stop hurting over being misunderstood because you realize people have the right not to understand you. And you don't need anyone's permission to live according to your values. From the moment you stop expecting others to care, you start living freely. From the moment you stop waiting for someone else to heal you, you start growing up. And when you walk forward alone, quietly, with no one watching, yet your heart stays steady, that's when you know you're no longer weak. Don't live to be seen. Don't work to be praised. Don't share your struggle just to be pitied. Live because you know what's right. Do it because it matters. And fall. Then rise again, not because someone's there to catch you, but because you deserve a life that isn't built on dependence. No one cares how many times you failed. No one's watching to see if you're getting better. And that's okay. As long as you're still watching yourself, as long as your inner compass is intact, that alone is reason enough to keep going. That's not coldness. That's maturity. That's the foundation you need to walk forward without needing anyone waiting at the end of the road. Once you accept the hard truth that no one cares about you as much as you do, a massive door opens, not to comfort, but to a real battle. The battle to reclaim control over your own life. And everything begins with one word: responsibility. You want your life to change? Don't wait for someone to change it for you. Don't say, because my parents were like that, or because my spouse doesn't understand me, or because society is unfair. Every excuse may sound reasonable, but none of them take you anywhere. On the contrary, they lock you inside an invisible cage where you're a permanent victim of your circumstances. Marcus Aurelius once said something I'll never forget. When you face adversity, don't ask, why me? Ask, what can I do with this? That's the turning point, from blame to action, from resentment to control, and that's when real strength begins. Sounds simple, but I know it's not easy to live this way, especially when you've just lost your job. When the person you trusted most betrays you, when you're drowning in debt, when you've been cut out of someone's life you loved deeply. In those moments, screaming, "I don't deserve this," is a natural reaction. But a Stoic doesn't care how you feel. A Stoic asks, what now? A Stoic doesn't deny emotions, but they don't let emotions take the wheel. They don't let external events define their inner worth. And that's why they always begin with one thing: taking responsibility fully for themselves. You're in pain because someone insulted you? It's not because they insulted you, but because you chose to believe what they said. You feel lost after a breakup? It's not because they left, it's because you placed your entire sense of worth in their presence. You're broken by failure? It's not because the failure was too big, it's because you built your hopes on something beyond your control. Once you understand this, you stop torturing yourself with "why me?" and start asking, what do I need to do now? That question is the key to freedom. Epictetus said, "We suffer not from events, but from our interpretation of them." That's one of the pillars of Stoicism. If you're still blaming others, you're still handing them the power over your emotions and your life. They get angry, you react. They walk away, you lose direction. They hurt you, you fall apart. Enough. You don't have to live like that anymore. You don't need the world to be fair. You just need to be strong. You don't need someone to heal you. You just need to learn how to rise. You don't need an easy life. You just need the courage to face what's in front of you. Every morning, remind yourself, I am responsible for this life. No one else. Not your parents, not your spouse, not your boss, not the government. If I'm unhappy, it's on me. If I haven't changed, it's because I haven't fully committed. If I'm still stuck in the same cycle, it's because I haven't had the guts to take full responsibility. You can't control other people. You can't stop someone from leaving. You can't force the world to be kind, but you can control your response. And that's where power begins. Stoicism teaches, clearly separate what's in your control from what isn't. Emotions, actions, decisions, those are yours. Thoughts, reactions, values, yours. Reputation, possessions, other people's opinions, never yours. What you choose to focus on will determine who you become. The average person chooses blame. The sovereign person chooses responsibility. The average person chooses to complain. The Stoic chooses silent action. The weak wait to be saved. The strong stand up and save themselves. And from that moment of full responsibility, you stop being a victim. You become the architect. Even if the wounds are still there, even if the hardship isn't over, you no longer wait. You begin. One of the reasons we feel exhausted in life is because we keep thinking we're on stage, like someone's always watching, judging, waiting for us to slip so they can smirk, or waiting for us to succeed so they can clap. But what's the truth? There is no audience. No one's really paying attention to how well or how poorly you perform, because they're too busy acting out their own role. We're not tired from hard work or overwhelming problems. We're tired from constantly trying to look the part under the imagined gaze of others. We choose outfits not because we feel comfortable in them, but because we're afraid of looking sloppy. We choose careers not out of passion, but out of fear of being labeled a failure. We stay silent when we should speak up because we're afraid of being called difficult. That's not living, that's performing. And when you live like a performer, you'll always need an audience. You'll constantly feel uneasy, constantly reshaping yourself based on others' reactions, constantly drained because you never get to just be you. Stoicism calls this the fear of reputation. It's not just the desire to be recognized, it's the obsession with being seen a certain way. You're afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being underestimated, afraid they won't see your kindness, afraid they won't notice how hard you've tried. And from there, you begin living for others, even though they never truly cared. Epictetus said, "If you want to be praised by others, you've become their slave." That line cuts straight through the heart of anyone who lives for outside validation. Because it's true. As long as you need someone else's approval, you're not in control. You might do something good and feel peace, but if you do it just to hear someone say, "You're a good person," then you've sold your soul for a compliment. And when no one says anything, you'll feel empty, disappointed, even angry. Many people live their whole lives under the delusion that someone's watching, a phantom jury constantly scoring them. They're too scared to be real, too scared to fail, too scared to change because it might ruin their image. But do you know the truth? No one really cares. They pass by you the same way you pass by hundreds of others, without a trace. Once you realize no one's actually watching, that's when you become free. Without an audience, you don't need to perform. Without the act, you don't need to strain. And without the strain, you finally start living. You stop saying what people want to hear. You say what you believe is right. You stop choosing the easy road just to be praised. You choose the path that aligns with your values, even if no one gets it. You stop trying to prove anything. You do what's right because it is right, not because someone's watching. A Stoic understands this deeply. They act not for applause, but for conscience. They show kindness, not to be thanked, but to stay loyal to their inner values. They show courage not to be admired, but because cowardice is something they refuse to accept in themselves. They don't live like a role. They live as a whole, not polished, not perfect, but real. And here's the twist. When you stop performing, the people who truly need to see you, they will. But you won't need them to anymore, because truth, freedom, and integrity, that's enough. Starting today, dismantle that imaginary audience in your head. Live as if no one's watching, because really no one is, and that's okay. Because if there's anyone who should be watching you, it's you, the one who has to face yourself every night before you sleep. Living for other people's eyes is the fastest road to burnout. Living by your inner voice is the only road to peace. And no one can give you that, but you. So keep walking, quietly. No bragging, no explaining, no waiting to be seen. Because if you know you're on the right path, no one else's gaze is necessary. Not everyone has the patience to watch until the end. But those who do are always the ones who go further than the rest. If you're one of them, subscribe and like. We're on the same team. At some point in life, you'll realize the times you felt most exhausted weren't because of work or financial pressure. They were because you had to pretend. Pretend to be okay when you're falling apart inside. Pretend to be strong when all you want is to cry. Pretend to be cheerful, successful, and normal like everyone else. You put on a shell and then lock yourself inside it, no longer sure who you really are. And then you ask yourself, what am I living for? Whose approval am I chasing? And are those people really that important to me? Stoicism doesn't allow us to live that way. It teaches one clear truth. If this life is yours, don't live it like a performance. Don't walk through it like you're on a stage, waiting for applause, nods, or roses. Live authentically. Live by values that don't need to be advertised. Live to keep your spine strong, not to decorate yourself for someone else's gaze. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every day, do the right thing, not needing to explain, not needing to be recognized. That's the posture of someone who no longer chases public approval, but answers only to his own conscience. You may have been hurt for being real, misunderstood, mocked, pushed away. And so you started building masks, the cheerful version, the successful one, the strong one, the resilient one. Those masks helped you survive, but they also took you further from yourself. Living authentically is hard, but pretending is far more exhausting. You can do something kind without anyone knowing. That's fine. You don't need to score points. You just need to keep that kindness as part of your principles. You can decline a tempting offer because it conflicts with your values. That's fine too. Even if others find you weird or difficult, as long as you're not betraying yourself, it doesn't matter. Living authentically means not lying about why you're walking away. It means saying, I don't want to, instead of making excuses. Saying, I'm not ready, instead of faking confidence. Saying, I'm in pain without shame. Saying, I need time without fear of judgment. Epictetus said, don't try to appear good, be good. That sounds simple, but in the age of social media, appearances and branding, it's one of the hardest things to do. While the world shouts, shine, stand out, be seen, the Stoic chooses to work quietly, to protect what matters most, not prove it. You don't need to announce your growth. You don't need to post big plans for the world to see. You don't need to hold together an image. The way you live, if it's real, will speak for itself. Only those performing are afraid to be exposed as imperfect. The real ones already know they're imperfect, and they're okay with that. They don't need to flaunt achievements. Don't need to post snapshots to prove happiness. Don't need to broadcast what they're working on. They act because it's right, not because someone's watching. You can choose to be that kind of person. If you're willing to leave the stage and step into real life, a life where you can fail without being judged, where you can be vulnerable without apology, where you can start over without anyone's permission. Living authentically means no one claps for you every day. No one calls your name. No one validates your effort. But in return, you gain the one thing that matters most, self-respect. And once you have that, you don't need others to believe in you, understand you, or support you. You'll keep walking, alone if necessary. You'll stay steady, even without cheers. You'll stay kind, even when misunderstood. No more performing. No more straining to play the roles of good person, successful person, or strong person. Just you, and a life that doesn't need an audience. This world isn't peaceful, and it never will be. There will always be someone who betrays you. There will always be injustices beyond your control. There will always be turmoil that makes you feel small, powerless, voiceless. There will be times you're misunderstood, isolated, and dragged into storms you didn't create. But in those moments, Stoicism reminds you of one thing. You don't need the world to be calm for your soul to be calm. Because the only thing you can control is your response, your mind, the way you choose to perceive and act amid the chaos. No one can take that from you. No tragedy, no person, no wound has the right to rob you of your inner peace, unless you hand it over willingly. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if something causes you disturbance, it is not the thing itself, but your judgment of it that gives it that power. We often forget, it's not what happens that hurts us, it's how we react to it. Someone else could go through the exact same situation and not fall apart. Why? Because they've learned how to remain steady on the inside. The Stoic doesn't avoid reality. They don't deny pain. They don't play blind to the truth. They fully acknowledge that life is unpredictable, people are imperfect, and the world is chaotic. But they don't let that chaos dictate who they are. They learn to protect one thing no one else can touch, their own mind. You might be betrayed, but that doesn't mean you have to live bitter. You might lose your job, but that doesn't mean you have to lose your dignity. You might fall once, but that doesn't mean you're doomed to stay down. You can still rise, still stand by your values, still be kind, even when surrounded by coldness and self-interest. Still speak truth, even when no one wants to hear it. That's what it means to be steady. Don't wait for the world to quiet down to find peace. Learn to hold your peace while the storm rages. Don't wait for people to be kind so you can believe in goodness. Be the goodness regardless. Don't wait for a favorable moment to begin changing. Start in the middle of the chaos, because that's when strength is most needed. Epictetus said, "When the sea is calm, every man is a good sailor. But when the storm comes, only those who can hold the rudder will reach the shore." You don't need a peaceful life. You need a steady hand. And that hand is your mind, forged through discipline, reflection, and daily awareness. We can't stop the world from changing, but we can refuse to let it change what matters most inside us. Don't let anger turn you cruel. Don't let pain make you cynical. Don't let failure make you abandon the path you believe in. Chaos will come. That's guaranteed. But the question is, how will you respond? The weak will complain. The wise will observe. The strong will steady their breath, adjust the rudder, and keep moving forward, even knowing there's no promise it'll get easier. They go on, not because success is certain, but because quitting is not an option. They understand this. The only thing you ever truly need to hold on to is yourself. And so do you. You don't need to control the world. You just need to control yourself. Don't get swept away. Don't get knocked over. Don't let yourself be warped. One day, you'll look back at the storms you've walked through and quietly say to yourself, "I'm still standing." Not because you were lucky, but because you chose to stay steady when everything else around you fell apart. We live in an age where everyone wants to be noticed. People no longer ask, "How do I live rightly?" They ask, "How do I get seen?" We dress to impress. We say shocking things to go viral. Even good deeds come with photos, captions, and hashtags. Nothing seems to hold value unless someone is watching. And then we get tired, deeply tired, because attention is never enough. Today you're applauded, tomorrow they forget your name. Today you're praised, tomorrow a single mistake turns you into their next target. You can't control public opinion, you can't control how people look at you, but you gamble your peace of mind on all of it. Marcus Aurelius warned us over 2,000 years ago, reputation is worthless. The ones praising you today will be buried decades from now. So are you living to be remembered by them, or to preserve your steadiness within? That question, answered honestly, clarifies everything. Are you doing what you do for principle, or for attention, for real value, or for temporary fame? The Stoic doesn't seek validation, they seek consistency. Consistency in thought, consistency in action, consistency in principle. They don't try to look virtuous, they are virtuous even when no one's watching. That's the foundation of real respect. You might do 100 good things, but if you only do them when someone's watching, you're buying attention, not living rightly. But if you stay disciplined daily, hold your principles even when no one's watching, and remain kind when no one returns it, you don't need anyone's approval. You'll respect yourself. That consistency doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from discipline. Waking up on time even when you're exhausted. Saying no to shortcuts even when no one would notice. Staying calm in arguments even when you could win by yelling. That's how the Stoic builds strength. Quietly, without flair, without waiting to be seen. You want to be someone others trust? Be consistent. Not by doing something grand now and then, but by doing what's right again and again. Not kind when happy and bitter when tired. Not disciplined today, then reckless tomorrow with excuses. Consistency isn't perfection. It's steady effort, sustained, unshaken, even when no one praises it, even when no one notices. Like a blacksmith who hammers iron day after day, not expecting it to change instantly, but trusting the result will come from the rhythm. Think about it. Who do you truly respect? Is it the one who talks loud, shows off, and seeks attention? Or the one who quietly follows through, says little, and lives what they claim? The one who keeps their word. The one who doesn't waver when life gets hard. The one you trust, not because they impress, but because they're real. We respect people not because they're popular, but because they live true, live with care, and live with steadiness, even when no one makes them. And if you want others to respect you, stop trying to be seen. Focus on being consistent. Train in silence. Work without posting. Live well without explaining. One day people will see, and if they don't, it won't matter. Because the first and most important person who must see is you. Epictetus once told his students, "If you walk past a cheering crowd for a famous swordsman, do you need to shout that you too are virtuous? No, you keep walking, because virtue needs no audience." Attention is temporary, consistency is long-term strength, and in a world growing louder every day, the one who lives quietly but steadily is the one who cannot be shaken. There's something most people don't realize. The majority of us no longer own our own minds. They're manipulated, pulled, hijacked. Every day, you wake up and almost immediately you let the world decide your state of mind. One negative headline makes you anxious. One critical comment makes you angry. One cold glance makes you feel worthless. You think you're living intentionally, but in truth, you're just reacting, constantly, to outside forces. You've lost control of your own thoughts. And that's when you lose the most vital thing, inner sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Your mind, if you don't protect it, will be invaded by others." That line sounds like a warning, and it is. No one needs to break into your home to violate you. Just one outside judgment that you let sink in, and that's enough for you to lose yourself. Stoicism treats mind control as a sacred duty, because if you don't control your mind, then you don't control anything. Money can be lost, reputation can vanish, opportunities can slip away. But if you can still master your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions, then you are still free. Lose that, and you live like a shadow. Compliments lift you, criticism breaks you. Attention makes you feel worthy, indifference makes you feel invisible. Your entire life becomes an emotional copy of whoever's in front of you. No stability, no core, no self. Have you noticed? We live like our minds are public space. Anyone can walk in, say anything, drop anything. Every day you open your phone and the world dumps into your head things you didn't ask for. Drama, envy, negativity, bragging, manipulation. And you absorb it all, like an open trash can. Epictetus once told his students, if someone offered you rotten food, you'd refuse it immediately. But if they offer you a toxic thought, you let it in without question. Thoughts aren't harmless. Once they're inside, they shape how you see the world, how you react, how you decide, and ultimately how you live. Reclaiming your mind doesn't mean turning off your phone or leaving society. It means becoming intentional. It means making conscious choices. Knowing what deserves to enter your mind and what must be stopped at the door. You can't stop people from slandering you, but you can choose not to believe it. You can't prevent bad news from spreading, but you can refuse to let it control your mood. You can't make everyone like you, but you can stop seeking their approval. Mastering your mind means choosing your response instead of reacting on autopilot. It means thinking before replying, pausing before getting angry, staying alert before agreeing. These things sound small, but if you do them, you're no longer an emotional puppet. You're in the driver's seat. Most importantly, you stop outsourcing your sense of self. You don't need someone's nod to feel worthy. You don't need agreement to feel right. You don't need support to keep moving forward. The Stoic lives like a fortress, not to escape the world, but to protect what matters most, inner dignity. They don't let anyone breach that sacred ground. No rumor, no threat, no temptation. You can be a fortress too, not by hiding, but by staying awake to every thought. By disciplining your mind as if it's territory that must be guarded 24/7. Ask yourself each morning, what will I allow into my mind today? And each night, how well did I hold the line? Reclaiming inner sovereignty isn't a one-time act, it's a lifelong commitment. But once you start, you stop being pulled by everything around you. You stop living in constant reaction. You start living with clarity and with freedom. Have you ever said something you instantly regretted? Ever felt your anger flare up so fast that you didn't even feel like yourself? Ever found yourself being controlled, not by someone else, but by your own unchecked emotions? If so, you're not alone. We've all been there. But that doesn't mean we should keep living that way. Stoicism teaches one very clear truth. The small space between stimulus and reaction is where your freedom resides. And in that space, you get to choose an impulsive reaction or a deliberate response. Reaction is instinctive. Someone insults you, you snap back. Someone attacks, you strike. Someone praises you, you light up. Someone rejects you, you shrink. Reaction turns you into a switch. Others push a button, and you respond accordingly. No control, no intention. You're just living by someone else's rhythm. Response, on the other hand, is a choice. It's when you pause for half a second before speaking. It's when you feel the heat of anger in your chest, but don't let it explode. It's when you realize you're being triggered, but choose not to let it dictate your behavior. Epictetus said, "It's not events that hurt you, but your judgment of them." And your response is the clearest reflection of that judgment. If you can't control how you respond, you can't control your life. Think about your day. How many situations make you jump because of a careless comment? How many times do you lose your calm over someone else's behavior? How often do you hurt yourself simply because you didn't pause to breathe and see the whole picture? Stoicism doesn't require you to be emotionless, but it does require you to be awake, to be conscious enough to know. Emotions arise, that's instinct. But your behavior afterward, that's a choice. You can be angry without destroying things. You can be sad without punishing yourself. You can be disappointed without hurting others. All of that is within your control, if you pause at the right moment. Marcus Aurelius, even while ruling an empire and leading armies, wrote to himself daily, "Master your reactions. Don't rush. Don't act hastily. Respond with reason." He understood that the higher your position, the deeper your need for inner discipline. The more eyes are watching, the less you can afford to live by impulse. And you don't need to be an emperor to realize you are the sole leader of your life. And if you don't control yourself, your life will be steered by every fleeting emotion. You want to become someone unshakable? Start by ending impulsive reactions. Begin responding with intention. Breathe before you speak. Step back before you say something. Write it down, then read it again before hitting send. It's small, but that's how you take back control in each moment. The Stoic doesn't suppress emotions, they work with them. They see anger, jealousy, fear, but they don't let it become destruction. They respond with kindness, logic, and principle, even when emotion surges within. That's real strength. The world won't stop testing you. People won't stop provoking you. Injustice, ignorance, and disorder will always exist. But you don't need to react to everything. You only need to hold to your principles and respond in a way you won't regret. Each time you respond intentionally, you lay another brick in your inner fortress. The wiser your responses, the fewer mistakes you have to fix. The more you master that space between feeling and doing, the more you become free, untouched by emotion, immune to manipulation. Remember, maturity isn't about being emotionless. It's about not being a slave to emotion. Choosing to respond instead of react, that's the clearest sign that you've started to live like a true Stoic. Don't look left, don't look right. Look straight at yourself. That's a fundamental principle for anyone living by Stoicism who wants to stay grounded in a world constantly spiraling with comparison. Because what's the truth? Every day, you're fed standards of success that aren't yours. People flaunt their houses, their cars, their vacations, their bodies, their happy families, and suddenly you feel like you're falling behind. Even if you've been working hard, even if you're improving bit by bit. But one moment scrolling through a screen, and you feel insignificant. So you start comparing, and then you feel like you're behind. You pressure yourself. You begin to doubt your path. From someone steadily working at your own pace, you become someone obsessed with an invisible scoreboard. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, don't waste time wondering what others are doing. Focus instead on whether you did better today than yesterday. That's not a motivational quote, it's a survival principle. It's a shield for your mind against the noise of modern life. Because if you keep measuring yourself by someone else's yardstick, you'll never feel enough. There will always be someone better, smarter, richer, more attractive, more fortunate. And if you keep chasing that race, you'll end up lost in a loop. Running hard, feeling lost, trying hard, yet still feeling like a failure. The Stoic doesn't look at life like that. They don't ask, how far has everyone else gone? They ask, how far have I come compared to myself? You might be slow, but you're not standing still. You might not have achieved anything huge yet, but you're taking steps. And every single step deserves to be recognized. By you, not anyone else. Measuring yourself by progress means today you managed your emotions better than yesterday. Today you focused longer. Today you said no to something you once couldn't resist. Today you gave more time to what mattered and less to what didn't. No one sees that. There's no medal for silent improvement, but that's the stuff that shapes you. The quiet repetitions day after day that build inner strength so that when life hits hard, you're not as easily knocked down anymore. You don't need to be better than anyone. You only need to be better than the person you were yesterday. That's a big enough victory. That's the foundation of self-respect. No comparisons, no proving. Epictetus once said, "You can't call someone making progress if they change goals every time someone else succeeds." Real progress is staying loyal to your own path, knowing where you're headed, knowing it takes time, knowing that the ones who brag the most aren't necessarily the ones living the deepest. You can start small, 1 hour without social media, 1 day without gossip, 1 week of going to bed on time, 1 month of consistent workouts. None of that is flashy enough for social media, but it makes you feel like your life is intentional. And when you live with intention, you don't need anyone to applaud you. Stoicism doesn't teach you to compare. It teaches you to focus. Focus on what you can control, your actions, your thoughts, your reactions, and little by little, you improve. No one notices. No one applauds. But you know, you're growing. You're becoming stronger, more grounded, more whole. That's why Stoics don't need to compare. They don't need to be better than anyone. They only need to make real progress. And they don't do it to become the smartest in the room, the richest in the group, or the most enviable online. They do it to become the most respectable version of themselves in their own eyes. If you're going to enter a race, make it the one race you can win, the race against yourself. And every time you beat who you were yesterday, you've already won. Quietly, but fully earned. This isn't just a video, this is the reminder you needed today. Hit subscribe and like if you want someone in your corner, pushing you to live by your real values. You want to be strong? You don't need to shout. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to put on a tough facade. Real strength doesn't lie in a loud voice, a muscular body, or a fierce stare. Real strength is discipline, and it's invisible. You can't see it with your eyes, but you feel it in how someone keeps promises to themselves, in how someone gets up on time every morning even when no one is watching, in how someone chooses the hard thing over the easy one. Quiet, unflashy, but solid like stone. That's discipline, the core of a Stoic. We live in an age that pampers emotion. Tired, take a break. Lazy, postpone. Bored, quit. Sad, complain. The whole culture sells you the idea that you deserve to rest, deserve forgiveness for every delay, deserve love even if you give nothing. It sounds kind, but if you buy into it too easily too early, you'll never grow up. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor surrounded by luxury, power, and war, still rose early to write in his journal, reminding himself of his principles. Epictetus, once a slave, trained his mind daily so he wouldn't be ruled by circumstance. They didn't do it because they were forced to. They did it because they understood. Without discipline, there is no freedom. Sounds contradictory, doesn't it? That discipline, so often seen as restrictive, is actually the foundation of freedom. But it's true. When you're disciplined, you're no longer ruled by emotions. You're no longer dragged down by delay. You're no longer a slave to laziness, cravings, anger, or boredom. You're the one behind the wheel. What you intend to do, you do. What you promise, you keep. That's freedom. On the other hand, if you live without discipline, you're constantly being led by trivial impulses. You plan to wake up early, but you're too sleepy, so you hit snooze. You intend to read at night, but your phone is too interesting, so you scroll endlessly. One day like that is fine, but live that way long enough, and you're building a weak life. The Stoic doesn't let themselves live like that. They know the difference maker isn't inspiration, it's discipline. Inspiration fades, discipline stays. You don't need discipline for grand achievements. You need it to hold on to the small things. Sleeping on time, eating properly, choosing kindness when silence would be easier. spending time on what matters instead of chasing novelty, comfort, or entertainment. These small things shape strong character. Discipline doesn't make you flashy, it builds your foundation. You want self-mastery, a career, a lasting relationship, a healthy body? It all starts with discipline. And discipline isn't innate, it's a habit, forged choice by choice, day by day. Every time you resist procrastination, you lay a brick for your willpower. Every time you choose what's right over what's easy, you reinforce your inner steel. But discipline doesn't come from blind punishment either. It comes from clarity. Clarity about what you're living for. When you know that, discipline stops being forcing yourself. It becomes a commitment to a better version of yourself. The Stoic doesn't aim for perfection. They simply refuse indulgence. They fail, but don't blame. They get tired, but don't quit. They lack motivation on some days, but still do what must be done because it's the right thing. That's what makes them steady. Not because they're stronger than others, but because they're more disciplined than who they were yesterday. Discipline is invisible strength. No one sees it, but eventually you feel it. You've changed. You're steadier. You're no longer so easily pulled off track. And no one gives you that but you, the one who kept showing up for yourself day after day. These days we're caught in a dangerous illusion that to be skilled, you must show it. That the capable are those who are visible, praised, validated on social media. But the truth is the opposite. The more skilled someone truly is, the quieter they become. The more deeply someone masters something, the less they talk. And if you pay attention, the most admirable people are usually the ones who have nothing to prove. In Stoicism, mastery isn't about what you can say, show off, or how much you can impress others. It's in repetition. Repetition every day. Repetition in silence. Repetition of things so simple others dismiss them, but you keep doing them, refining them, improving without pause. Epictetus said, "Don't boast of being a philosopher. Live like one, and let others come to that conclusion themselves." That doesn't just apply to philosophy. It applies to any craft, any discipline. Don't talk about your progress. Don't announce your practice. Just do the work. Real growth speaks for itself in how you respond, how you perform under pressure, how you stay calm in chaos. Want to become great? Start by embracing the boring. Because mastery isn't glamorous. It doesn't wow people every day. It doesn't produce content you can post. It's just you, sitting in silence, repeating the drills, doing the work no one notices. That's the essence of true skill. You practice writing, line by line. You practice speaking, session by session. You practice discipline, hour by hour. You practice emotional control, moment by moment. No praise, no audience, but you know you're improving. And that's enough. Marcus Aurelius was emperor, but still journaled every morning to train his mind. Not to publish, to stay aligned with his principles. He didn't need applause. He didn't post about waking up at 5 a.m. He didn't need validation. Because he understood, the person who most needs to see your progress is you. Whether others notice, doesn't matter. Can you work in the dark? Can you stick with repetition, daily, unseen, unnoticed? Can you master a skill until it becomes reflex? Can you do something ordinary until it becomes extraordinary? If so, you're on the right path. And that's why true mastery is rare. Most people don't have the patience. They want speed. They want to be great now. They want to stand out. But they won't go through the boring phase. The part where no one cares, where results are slow, where nothing impressive happens. So they quit halfway and spend their lives knowing a little about everything but mastering nothing. The Stoic doesn't live that way. They choose less, but go deeper. They choose silence, but with substance. They don't need others to know what they're working on. They only need to know they're making progress each day. You don't need to be busy. You need to repeat the right things. Not chase something new every week, but go deeper with what you've chosen. Not chase compliments, but keep showing up with discipline, even when no one's watching. Mastery is the result of thousands of small actions, done with consistency. No shortcuts, no need for rewards, no audience required. And one day, when real pressure hits, you'll notice the difference. You won't panic. You won't lash out. You won't crumble under stress. Because inside you, something's been forged, quietly, steadily, for years. You won't need to say I'm skilled. Others will see it, but more importantly, you won't need their validation anymore because you've stepped into a place of true stability. A place with no room for bragging, comparing, or chasing status. Only calm, because you know you're in control of yourself. There's a truth most people don't want to hear, but anyone who's gone deep enough into the path of growth will know it. The closer you get to inner freedom, the lonelier the road becomes. Not because you're living wrongly, but because you're finally living right, in a way very few can walk with you. You'll notice shallow conversations no longer excite you. Loud gatherings no longer feel like home. Relationships built on habit, convenience, or small talk begin to feel empty. So you step back, bit by bit. No drama, no resentment, just quietly, because you no longer see yourself in those spaces. Stoics know this feeling well. They don't fear solitude. In fact, they see it as the forge of greatness. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of a vast empire, still spent every morning alone, journaling, reflecting, dialoguing with himself. Not trying to please the court, not chasing laughter at banquets. He understood, without inner quiet, a person is easily dragged into the noise of the world. And that's what's happening to many people today. They can't sit still alone. They can't handle an empty evening. They panic when the phone stays silent. They don't know what to do when no one texts, calls, or reacts to their posts, because they've never learned how to be alone. To the unprepared, solitude is terrifying. But to those in training, it's sacred space. No audience, no applause, no suggestions. Just you. And the questions you can't run from. How am I really living? Am I being honest with myself? What inside me needs to change? Not everyone has the courage to sit with those questions, because in silence you can't perform. You can't stay busy to distract yourself. You can't lie to your own face. Every crack becomes visible, every weakness shows up. And that's why many people keep diving into crowds, noise, and busyness, just to avoid confronting who they really are. Epictetus once said, if you want to make progress, accept that some people won't understand you. Accept that you'll be separated from the crowd, and accept that sometimes you'll feel alone because you've chosen a different path. That's the price, but also the gift. When you dare to enter solitude, you begin to hear your true voice. You begin to see which values are truly yours and which were handed to you by society. You begin to distinguish between what you really want and what you do just to be praised. And you start to live with intention, not by someone else's rhythm. Solitude isn't comfortable, but it's necessary. Like steel needs fire to be forged, like seeds need darkness underground to sprout. Solitude, when faced with clarity, stops being emptiness. It becomes fullness from within. You realize you don't need many people to understand you. You just need to understand yourself. You don't need a packed calendar to feel loved. You don't need to show up everywhere to prove you exist. You learn to sit still and feel whole. And one day, looking back, you'll see it wasn't the parties or the applause that built your foundation. It was those quiet nights when you sat alone, writing down what you got wrong, what you learned, what you finally understood. It was those mornings you rose early, not because someone asked you to, not because someone was waiting, but because you made a vow to live better each day. So if you're feeling lonely, don't assume you're off track. Maybe you're being forged. Don't fear the quiet. Don't fear losing connection with those no longer aligned with your pace. Don't fear feeling out of place in the crowd. Step further inward, where you'll finally start to see your real worth. And when you emerge from the fire of solitude, you won't need to be flashy, you won't need fanfare. But you'll carry a depth that others can't ignore, and a presence that commands respect without saying a word. At some point in life, you'll face a choice. Stay true to your values and be misunderstood, or please the crowd by playing a role that isn't you. And that choice will define who you are. A Stoic doesn't take the easy road. They don't chase the validation of others. They don't live to be accepted. They live to protect one thing above all else: self-respect. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't strive to be understood. Strive not to betray yourself." If you let that sink into your blood, it becomes a compass. guiding you past temptation, applause, and the silent expectations society tries to place on your shoulders. Because nothing pulls you away from yourself faster than being praised for something you know isn't real. We grow up with a faulty script. If you're good, you'll be recognized. If you're right, people will agree. And if others don't like you, then you must be wrong. That's a dangerous mindset. Because once you tie your worth to external recognition, you start to lose yourself. You begin choosing your words to please. You take the safe route over the right one. You agree just to avoid conflict. You wear a friendly face even when you silently disagree. And little by little, you trade your truth for the comfort of approval. Epictetus once said, "If you entrust your worth to others, you'll always feel anxious because they can take it back at any moment." And it's true. Today they love you. Tomorrow they turn on you. One mistake and the applause fades into mockery. If you live by the rhythm of the crowd, you won't have the spine to stand when the clapping stops. Self-respect doesn't come from being recognized. It comes from keeping promises to yourself, sticking to your principles when no one's watching, and holding your dignity even when you're at a disadvantage. A person with self-respect doesn't need to scream that they're right. They just need to know they're not living a lie. They don't need to win every argument. They just won't compromise with what's wrong. They can stay silent, they can walk away, but they will never bow and betray their core. You won't find self-respect in parties, praise, or fake approval. You'll find it in the quiet hours when you look at yourself and know, "Today, I lived in alignment, even if no one noticed." You'll know you didn't bend to what was wrong. You'll know you stood on principle, even if you stood alone. You'll know you didn't have to perform, didn't have to prove, didn't have to play a part. And that knowledge, that stillness, is real peace. The Stoic doesn't live for applause. They live so they won't be ashamed of themselves. Any respect they earn from others is incidental, not the goal. They don't chase the spotlight. They build an inner pillar, firm, quiet, unseen, but unshakable. You don't need to be fully understood. You only need to be someone who never betrays their values. And you don't need anyone to certify that. Every time you hold your ground while others disagree, every time you choose the hard right over the easy wrong, every time you quietly walk away from what's fake, you forge steel into the core of who you are. And one day, you'll walk into a room full of people and won't have to do anything. They'll respect you. Not because you're loud, but because your presence carries the weight of someone who has lived true in silence for a long, long time. Real recognition, if it comes, only arrives after you no longer need it. And the only thing you ever truly need, from beginning to end, is this: self-respect. In a world obsessed with appearances, fewer people have the patience to quietly build. Everything today is about speed and image. People don't ask, is the foundation solid? They ask, does it look impressive? They don't ask, what are you truly doing? They ask, what have you posted? But if you live by Stoic principles, you understand one thing clearly. Any performance without substance will eventually collapse. Only what is built with time, discipline, and persistence runs deep enough to last. A Stoic doesn't race with external timelines. They move at the pace of their inner progress. They don't strive to become the center of attention. They strive to stay grounded, especially when no one's watching. That's why they endure longer. They shake less. They don't get swept up in the noisy race many mistake for success. Marcus Aurelius never wrote for others to read. He wrote to remind himself. Epictetus didn't preach to go viral. He taught a handful of students in a quiet room about living rightly. They never aimed to be great. They simply aimed to live each day with clarity and integrity. And the result? 2,000 years later, the world still learns from them, not because they knew how to perform, but because they lived truthfully, and they lived deep. The difference between a builder and a performer is this. One pours effort into what no one sees, the other into what everyone notices. The builder spends time learning, refining, correcting, being patient with the process. The performer spends time taking pictures, polishing their message, crafting an image for impact. Think back. How many times have you shared something before it was truly ready, just to get a few likes? How many times have you quit halfway because no one noticed, no one praised, no results came fast enough? How often have you felt pressured to look the part, even though the substance wasn't there yet? Showing off isn't wrong, but if performance becomes the goal, you'll live shallowly. You'll do things just to be seen, not to understand. You'll chase shortcuts for quick wins instead of enduring the long road for strong foundations. And soon, you'll find yourself trapped in a loop of external expectations. Today has to be flashier than yesterday. More exciting, more praised, even if you've forgotten why you started. The Stoic doesn't build a life around public opinion. They build around principle. They don't broadcast every time they resist temptation. Overcoming it is the reward. They don't film every act of kindness. Kindness is just who they are. They don't announce every step forward. They track progress for themselves, not for applause. Want to be truly grounded? Work quietly. Don't explain. Don't show off. Don't rush. Focus on what you're building within. Ask yourself each day, is what I'm doing today laying the foundation for the person I want to become? If the answer is yes, keep going. Even if no one sees, even if no one praises, even if no one cares. Don't trade depth for attention. Don't trade real progress for a quick display. Don't build a beautiful front with nothing behind it. Build from the ground up, even if all people see is the roof. One day, what you've built will speak for itself. People will come not because you tried to impress them, but because your stability, your depth, your authenticity cuts through a world drowning in noise and fakery. And when that moment comes, you'll realize it was the quiet work, the slow, invisible building that created something no spotlight could ever replace. In a world where everyone's trying to talk more, faster, and louder, silence has become strangely rare and deeply valuable. People fear silence the way they fear an empty room, afraid no one's paying attention, afraid of being left behind. But to a Stoic, silence isn't weakness. Silence is strategy. It's a weapon. And more than that, it's a place where the truth within finally begins to surface. It's only when you're truly silent that you start to hear clearly. Not the noise of others, but your own voice. The thoughts you've buried, the conflicts you've avoided, the questions you've dodged. All of it begins to rise once you stop talking and stop running. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen more than we speak." But today, people do the opposite. They speak before thinking, react before understanding, argue before truly listening. And what does that create? Noise, misunderstanding. Conversations filled with emotion but lacking depth, words flung out without ownership. The Stoic chooses to observe before speaking, not because they lack opinions, but because they understand. Truth isn't in a rush. Truth doesn't fight for the spotlight. Truth just needs space. Space to emerge when all the clutter finally settles. Think about it. In those rare moments when you sit alone, undisturbed, without notifications, without distractions, your mind becomes clearest. You begin to see what's really going on inside you. You notice the fear quietly steering your actions. You catch the assumptions you've been carrying. You realize what's truly making you uneasy, not because someone said it, but because you believed it. Silence is when you see your true self, without defenses, without performance, without the pull of the noisy crowd. And from that space, you can make your clearest decisions, not reactive, not imitative, not emotion-driven, just honest. Marcus Aurelius, even as emperor, wrote in his journal each early morning before the world woke up. That was his time to listen, to reflect, to remember what mattered. He didn't write for others, he wrote for himself. It was a silent dialogue, a moment to recalibrate his inner compass amidst the storms of politics, war, and betrayal. You can do the same. Give yourself space to be still. Not long, but regular. A pocket of time untouched by interruption. Not to escape life, but to return to yourself. To ask the questions that matter. What am I really living for? Am I reacting or choosing how to respond? Am I still on the path I believe in or getting pulled by applause that doesn't mean a thing? Stoicism doesn't promote withdrawing from life. On the contrary, they act, they fight, they serve, they engage. But they know this. To act rightly, you need stillness to see clearly. No one walks into battle with a mind in chaos. No one keeps their principles intact without frequent, silent check-ins. Silence doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've chosen not to speak all the time, not to react to everything, not to always have something to say. It means you're strong enough to stay out of meaningless arguments, grounded enough not to show up everywhere, deep enough to see that often truth isn't in what's said, it's in what you're quiet enough to notice beneath the noise. And it's in silence that you cultivate something powerful: intuition. Intuition doesn't come from analyzing data. It comes from listening to yourself long enough to know what rings true. It lets you sense the fake in words that seem sincere. It shows you the hollowness behind compliments that look impressive. It shields you from emotional traps you never needed to fall into. Silence in this world is a form of awareness. And if you learn to embrace it, you'll gain a rare kind of strength. The strength of someone who doesn't need to argue, but can see through every game being played. All content on this channel is completely free, and I will always keep it that way. However, if you'd like to support, you can send a small contribution via PayPal. Every bit of help is truly appreciated. No one wakes up on a beautiful morning, suddenly unshakable. No one walks out of a weekend seminar and magically stops being afraid. Steadiness doesn't fall from the sky, it's forged. It's the result of thousands of right choices, thousands of moments of self-discipline, thousands of times you stuck to your principles when no one was watching and no one was forcing you. For a Stoic, confidence doesn't come from pep talks. It doesn't come from stockpiling knowledge. It comes from living truthfully every single day, from knowing exactly what you're doing, why you're doing it, and being willing to accept whatever comes without blame or complaint. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "One day, you will stop looking outward for direction because you'll have found your way home within." That's the day you no longer need anyone to confirm that you're on the right path. No advisor's approval, no family member's belief. You know, and that's enough. A Stoic doesn't live by inspiration. They live by principle. They don't move when motivation strikes. They move because they've chosen a path, and whether it's sunny or stormy, easy or brutal, they keep going. No need for a good mood, no need for the crowd's blessing, no need for anyone's encouragement. Because here's the truth: if your strength still depends on others supporting you, you're not standing on your own yet. If you need someone to walk with you before you begin, you haven't built your core. If you require recognition to stay the course, one careless insult could derail you. Conviction isn't something someone can hand you. It doesn't live in your clothes, your home, or your bank account. It lives in one place: your ability to keep promises to yourself. Are you walking the path that aligns with your values? Are you acting in integrity with what you believe is right? And here's where you can't fake it. You can fool others with confident posture, with sharp words, with polished performance, but you can't fool yourself. Deep down, you know if you're solid or if you're still performing. If you're leading your life or just playing a role. A Stoic doesn't play roles. They don't act to be accepted. They live like a rock in the ocean, not seeking attention, not needing admiration, only needing to remain unmoved. And what keeps them standing isn't brute strength, it's clarity. Clarity that says, I can't control the world, but I can control myself. I can't force others to be kind, but I can choose not to do wrong. I can't change what's happened, but I can respond with dignity. I don't need a partner to validate me. I am enough, because I've chosen to live rightly, honestly, and with intention. One day, you'll look back and realize, those who once made you feel small can no longer shake you. Places that once made you feel out of place now feel neutral. Situations that once made you anxious are now just small tests. Because you've trained yourself long enough, quietly, consistently, with discipline. And now you walk without needing to ask, can I handle this? You just do. You don't need to beat anyone. You don't need to stand out. You don't need to win fast. You just need to keep walking, like someone who knows each step carries weight, like someone who doesn't need to posture, like someone who every day is becoming the version of yourself that your past self would look up to and say, I'm proud we didn't quit. That is conviction. It doesn't come from theory. It doesn't come from adrenaline. It comes from real life. Every day, when you choose what's right, what's steady, and what keeps you moving forward. No one is managing you. There's no one standing behind you, reminding you to wake up early, to stop scrolling your phone, to sit down and work, to hold back from reacting impulsively. There's no boss watching your every move, and there doesn't need to be. Because a Stoic doesn't live in a system of surveillance. They live in a system of self-governance. Self-management. That's what separates the truly mature from those still flailing. When you don't need anyone to push you but still maintain discipline. When you don't need reminders to see something through. When pressure isn't required to spark change. That's when you've stepped into the domain of self-mastery. And no one can put you there but you. Epictetus once said, "Freedom begins with discipline, and discipline begins with the ability to govern yourself." Sounds simple. Try living it. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Because your biggest enemy isn't someone else, it's you. In the moments when you let emotion drive, when old habits take over, when procrastination seizes the wheel. Stoics don't live by impulse. They live by structure. They understand that if they loosen their grip, everything falls into disorder. Not because of the outside world, but from within. If you can't control yourself, you control nothing. And if each day you're ruled by emotion, reaction, and circumstance, then you're not in charge of your life. You're just being dragged along. You might have clear goals. You might have read 100 books. You might have watched a dozen inspiring talks. But if you can't manage yourself each day, you'll stay stuck. Not because you don't know, but because you can't command. Self-management isn't some grand gesture. It's in the little things. You said you'd wake at 6, you wake. You said you'd train for 30 minutes, you train. You promised not to check your phone while working, you keep that promise. No one's watching, no one's scoring you, but you keep your word to yourself, and that's the foundation of real strength. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his journal out of enjoyment. He wrote because it was how he did inner work daily, reviewing what he did well, where he failed, which reactions were beneath him. No one forced him, no one expected it, but he knew if he didn't reflect daily, then all the power, rank, intelligence, or experience in the world wouldn't save him from corruption. Same goes for you. If you don't examine yourself regularly, you'll slip without knowing. No one's going to warn you that you're drifting from your values. No one's going to point out that your reactions are too emotional. No one's going to step in when you start betraying your own principles. It all happens silently. And if you're not watching, you won't realize until it's too late. Self-management is a skill, and like every skill, it must be trained. You won't just become disciplined, but you can start small. Each night, write down 3 things you did well and 3 things you could improve. Each morning, look at your goal and ask, what one thing today will move me closer to what I truly want? Do that one thing, and you've won a round against your old self. Repeat that every day. No fanfare. No waiting for inspiration. No cheerleaders. Just you refusing to surrender to who you used to be. Just you seeing clearly what's pulling you off course and correcting it the moment you spot it. Bit by bit, you'll change. Quietly, steadily, but surely. And when you maintain that rhythm long enough, you'll no longer need a new season to restart. You won't wait for Monday. You won't wait for deadlines to pass. You won't need someone to go first. You'll act, because you know the one truly responsible and the only one with the power to command is you. After everything you've heard, experienced, and reflected on, here's the one truth you must hold closest. You are already enough. Not when you earn more money, not when your ex comes back to apologize, not when your child becomes successful to prove you didn't fail, not when your body looks like a model's, your status mirrors a CEO's, or your presence matches a celebrity's. No, right now, the person you are, carrying everything you've endured, everything you're facing, everything you're striving toward, you are already enough. Stoicism doesn't exist to turn you into some perfect upgrade of yourself. It exists to help you see your true nature and live it honestly. All the growth, the discipline, the logic, the calm that you're learning, it's not to make you more valuable in others' eyes, but to make you more grounded in your own. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning that he could be misunderstood, hated, obstructed, betrayed, and he couldn't control any of it. But he could still live rightly, still hold his dignity, still choose to respond with kindness and principle, because he knew one thing for certain. My value doesn't come from what happens outside. It comes from how I face life. And so it is with you. If you keep living with the mindset of not enough, you will never find peace. You'll always feel like you have to do more, earn more, prove more, just to be seen, to be loved, to be validated. And the more you live like that, the more exhausted you become. You turn into a machine of lack, lacking approval, lacking affection, lacking success, lacking stillness. And that constant sense of lack blinds you from your own inherent worth. Epictetus once said, "If you have everything outside but lack harmony with your own conscience, you have nothing." That line reminds you there is nothing more important than whether you're truly living in alignment with yourself, whether you're preserving your inner integrity, whether you're walking a path you can meet your own gaze with pride for. Take a moment to look back on your path. Think of the stages where you almost broke and didn't, the setbacks you rose from, the pain you endured that would have made someone else give up. So why do you still tell yourself you're not enough? You don't have to please anyone. You don't have to compete. You don't need to win anyone's gaze to prove your worth. All you need is to live fully as your truest self. Do what's right. Be kind. Be clear. Be decisive. Stay humble, but never grovel. Stay strong, but never cruel. Love, but never at the cost of losing yourself. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be right every time. You don't have to be happy every day. You're allowed to be tired, to be wrong, to fall apart. What matters most is that after it all, you choose to rise again. Not to prove anything, but because you deserve a life that reflects your quiet strength. Stoics understood this. They didn't live to be ideal symbols. They lived to never betray the truth within. The truth that I don't need to be better than anyone. I just need to be true to myself. And being true to myself is enough. If tomorrow you start to doubt yourself, stop, breathe, and ask, am I living in alignment with my values? Am I veering away from my core? If the answer is no, then don't worry about the noise. Don't worry about who's watching, because you, the only person who truly matters on this journey, are at peace. You've been enough long ago. Your job isn't to become more, it's to return to your most honest self, and from there, live with quiet power. Thank you for being here. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, turn on notifications, and like this video. Don't forget to leave a comment so we can spread positivity together.